The lights burned hot against the debate stage, cameras sweeping across an audience that was already buzzing with anticipation. At center stage stood Charlie Kirk, shoulders squared, smirk sharpened, and a stack of rehearsed sound bites ready to fire. To his followers, this was familiar ground, a chance to dominate, interrupt, and drown out any opponent who dared to challenge him. But just a few feet away, Jasmine Crockett sat quietly, hands folded, posture calm and unshaken. No raised voice, no flashy theatrics, only a piercing focus that seemed to cut straight through the noise. It was the stillness before a storm, and everyone in the room could feel it. Kirk launched first, rattling off accusations with his trademark rapid-fire delivery. He painted Crockett as radical, out of touch, and a danger to American values. Every sentence was designed for sound bites, for viral clips to fuel outrage online. The crowd cheered, some booed, the energy crackled. On the surface, it looked like Kirk had seized control, but Crockett didn't flinch. She leaned in, eyes locked, waiting. It was a patience that spoke volumes. She wasn't just here to survive an ambush. She had come prepared, with facts, with documents, and with a truth so sharp it would slice through Kirk's performance in seconds. And when she spoke, the tone shifted instantly. Calm, deliberate, measured, every word cutting through the room like a blade. All, and if you believe voices like Crockett's deserve to be amplified louder than the noise, hit subscribe right now. Be the first to see when arrogance meets truth and loses. The smirk on Kirk's face wouldn't last. His confidence, his swagger, his constant interruptions, all of it was about to collapse under the weight of evidence he never expected. The cameras were rolling, the audience leaning forward, the world watching. And Jasmine Crockett was just getting started. Charlie. Kirk knew his weapon wasn't evidence, it was volume. He leaned into the microphone with the swagger of someone who'd been here before, spitting out lines like bullets. Each claim was designed not to inform, but to overwhelm. He painted Jasmine Crockett as a puppet of the radical left, accusing her of peddling lies and ignoring real Americans. His tone was sharp, relentless, laced with mockery. Every time Crockett opened her mouth to respond, Kirk cut across her, raising his voice just enough to create the illusion of dominance. His fans in the crowd roared with approval, clapping and whistling with every jab. But outside his base, the effect was different. Some in the audience exchanged uneasy glances. His aggression felt less like strength, and more like desperation, like a man afraid of letting his opponent actually speak. Still, Kirk pressed on, doubling down with accusations about immigration, crime, and patriotism. Each point was broad, dramatic, but paper-thin. "This is what's wrong with Washington," Kirk declared, his voice booming. "People like Crockett, elitist, dishonest, disconnected, don't care about you. They care about power. They care about tearing this country apart." The crowd erupted again, but this time the reaction wasn't unanimous. Mixed in with the cheers were groans, side conversations, even a few laughs. It was the sound of an audience sensing that Kirk's firestorm was running out of fuel, because as loud as he was, something was missing. Receipts, facts, proof, and Jasmine Crockett had come prepared. With all three, the question wasn't if she would expose him. It was how soon. And that moment was just seconds away. When Charlie Kirk finally paused to catch his breath, Jasmine Crockett leaned into her microphone with the kind of calm that cuts louder than shouting ever could. Her voice wasn't rushed, wasn't flustered. It was measured, deliberate, and anchored in a quiet confidence. "Mr. Kirk," she began, eyes never leaving his, "you've thrown a lot of words out here tonight, but here's the difference between noise and truth. I came with receipts." A ripple went through the audience. Some gasped, others leaned forward, sensing the shift. Crockett reached for a folder sitting neatly in front of her. She pulled out a document, held it up just long enough for the cameras to catch it, and began to read. The words were precise, devastating. A transcript, a quote. a contradiction from Kirk's own prior statements. In real time, she laid bare the gap between what he was claiming on stage and what he had actually said, signed, or supported elsewhere. Kirk shifted in his chair. The smirk that had animated his face minutes earlier faded into tight lips and darting eyes. Crockett didn't stop there. She stacked her evidence piece by piece, each one landing like a blow. Here's your own signature, Mr. Kirk. Here's your own interview. Here's your own contradiction. The crowd erupted. Some laughed. Some clapped. Even Kirk's most loyal supporters struggled to disguise their discomfort. And Crockett delivered the line that froze the room. You can run from accountability, but you cannot hide from the truth. And the truth is right here, in your own words. Kirk tried to interject, raising his hand, his voice, anything to regain control. It was no longer a debate. It was a takedown, calm, factual, devastating. And with every passing second, silence began to feel heavier on Kirk's shoulders. The shift was unmistakable. A man who had opened the night with fire and fury now sat visibly shrinking. Under the weight of evidence he couldn't outrun, Charlie Kirk's fingers tapped nervously against the desk, his posture no longer commanding but defensive, shoulders hunched as though trying to shield himself from the blows landing all around him. He tried once to cut in. "That's not," he began, but Crockett raised a single page of his own prior statement, and the words died in his throat. The crowd roared at the timing, as if they had just witnessed a punchline delivered with surgical precision. The silence stretched. His eyes darted left, then right, searching for an escape, an interruption that might save him, but none came. The cameras stayed locked on his face, capturing every flicker of discomfort, every swallow, every forced half-smile that looked more like a grimace. It wasn't just that Kirk had lost control of the debate. It was that everyone watching knew it. His silence screamed louder than his words had minutes before. And Crockett, without raising her voice, without breaking her composure, had orchestrated it perfectly. The villain who thrived on noise had been undone by the one thing he never expected: facts wielded with calm precision. But the silence in that room wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. Because once the audience found its voice again, what happened next turned the atmosphere electric. For a moment, the courtroom, or rather, the stage that now felt like one, was frozen in stunned silence. Then it hit like a wave. Gasps broke first, followed by scattered applause, then rolling laughter that swept across the audience. The shift was seismic. Charlie Kirk, once commanding the room with sheer volume, had been reduced to a prop in his own undoing. Crockett didn't need to gloat. The evidence spoke louder than anything she could add. But the people watching, both, in the room and online, couldn't contain their reactions. A student in the front row whispered loudly, "She just ended him." Another voice shouted from the back, "Show the receipts again!" The energy was electric, a mix of relief and exhilaration at watching arrogance crumble in real time. Even those who had cheered Kirk earlier looked uneasy, their applause now hesitant, their eyes betraying doubt. A few shifted uncomfortably in their seats, forced to reckon with the undeniable. Outside the walls, phones were already buzzing. Clips of Crockett's takedown circulated instantly, hashtags beginning to trend before the debate had even wrapped. Receipts don't lie, and Crockett vs. Kirk flooded timelines. The evidence replayed frame by frame, meme by meme. The reaction wasn't just laughter, it was validation. People across the spectrum recognized what had just happened. A loud voice had been silenced not by shouting back, but by undeniable truth. And in that moment, the audience wasn't just watching a debate. They were witnessing history. But if the crowd's eruption felt final, it wasn't. Crockett still had one more move to make, her closing statement, and it would elevate this exchange from a clash of egos into something far more powerful. When the noise of the crowd finally settled, Crockett leaned forward once more, her voice steady, her presence unshaken. She didn't need theatrics. The moment already belonged to her? "Let me make something clear," she said, her tone cutting through the air with precision. "This is not about me, and it's not even about Mr. Kirk. This is about the truth, and whether we value it enough to hold ourselves accountable." The words hit harder than any insult thrown earlier in the night. She wasn't fighting for applause. She was drawing a line between politics as spectacle and politics as service. Crockett held up the final page of her evidence, then placed it flat on the desk almost ceremonially. Facts matter. Receipts matter. Because if we let noise win over truth, then we all lose. Every single one of us. The room fell into an almost reverent quiet. Even those who had jeered earlier couldn't ignore the weight of what she was saying. It wasn't just a debate anymore. It had become a lesson, one rooted in dignity and accountability. And then came the line that sealed it. You can shout all day long, but when the receipts are on the table, the shouting stops. And the truth speaks louder than anything else. For a beat, there was silence. Then the audience erupted, louder than at any point that evening. Applause thundered, echoing the moral clarity of her words. Crockett had not just dismantled Charlie Kirk, she had reframed the entire debate into something larger, a confrontation between noise and truth, arrogance and accountability. And in that moment, truth had triumphed. By the time the debate ended, the moment was already bigger than the room. Clips of Crockett holding up receipts against Charlie Kirk exploded across social media, each angle sharper than the last. On Twitter, hashtags like "Son Crockett destroys Kirk" and "Numb receipts don't lie" shot to the top of trending charts. TikTok edits spliced the exact second Kirk's smirk vanished with reaction memes, racking up millions of views overnight. Headlines wasted no time. Charlie Kirk, silenced by Crockett's evidence, blared across digital front pages. Left-leaning outlets celebrated the takedown, praising Crockett's composure and precision. Even some conservative commentators admitted the exchange was brutal. One analyst quipped, "Kirk walked into that debate swinging, but Crockett walked out holding the mic." Late-night hosts replayed the clip with glee, pausing to zoom in on Kirk's face as the realization hit him. Reaction videos from across the country poured in. Teachers, veterans, students, all echoing the same message. Jasmine Crockett just showed us what real accountability looks like. But perhaps the most telling ripple was within Kirk's own circles. Normally quick to spin his performances into viral victories, his team went quiet, their feeds unusually muted. No triumphant clips, no victory laps, just silence. Meanwhile, Crockett's team leaned into the momentum. The receipts she laid out were posted publicly, complete with timestamps and citations. Transparency was her armor, and it resonated. What had started as a debate moment had transformed into a cultural flashpoint. This wasn't just Crockett versus Kirk anymore. It was a referendum on noise versus truth. And the world had already chosen which one rang louder. But the question lingered. Beyond the viral clips, what deeper lesson would this moment leave behind? When the applause faded and the headlines settled, the real takeaway of Jasmine Crockett's dismantling of Charlie Kirk came into focus. It wasn't simply about one person winning a debate or humiliating an opponent. It was about the contrast between two very different approaches to power. On one side stood Kirk, armed with volume, insults, and bluster. His strategy was clear. Overwhelm the conversation with noise, hoping the sheer force of rhetoric would disguise the emptiness underneath. For a time, it seemed to work. The cheers, the jeers, the performance, it all created the illusion of strength. But illusions don't last. On the other side stood Crockett, who proved that preparation, evidence, and composure carry more weight than the loudest microphone. Her calm confidence reminded everyone, watching that real leadership isn't measured in how many times you can interrupt. It's measured in whether your words can stand the test of truth. The lesson resonated far beyond the stage. It spoke to classrooms where students feel drowned out, to workplaces where facts are brushed aside, to everyday Americans who've been told to stay quiet while others shout them down. Crockett showed that dignity and evidence can still pierce through the noise. And that's why her moment mattered. Because it wasn't just about silencing Charlie Kirk. It was about reminding all of us that in the end, truth doesn't whisper, it roars as the debate wrapped up and the cameras cut away. The buzz around Jasmine Crockett's takedown of Charlie Kirk only grew louder. Clips of the exchange spread like wildfire across social media, trending within hours. People weren't just replaying the moment for entertainment. They were dissecting it, sharing it, and drawing strength from it. Commentators called it one of the sharpest rebukes in recent memory. Viewers who had long grown tired of the shouting, matches that dominate political spaces, finally saw something refreshing. A leader who let the facts do the talking. For many, it was proof that intellect and preparation can still triumph over noise and bravado. But perhaps the most powerful impact came from the everyday people watching at home. Teachers told their students about it. Young activists said they felt inspired. Even casual viewers, who may not follow politics closely, couldn't help but admire how Crockett stood tall, refusing to be intimidated, and that's where you come in. If this moment resonated with you, if you believe truth, composure, and courage deserve a bigger platform, don't just watch from the sidelines. Share this story. Talk about it. Keep the conversation alive. Subscribe for more powerful breakdowns of moments that shake the system. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this Crockett's most powerful moment yet? And hit that like button to make sure stories like this reach more people who need to see them. Because silence doesn't change the game. Voices do.